How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another volume by volume. This time is the second volume in any of the series I've put up so far. We're talking about I'm Standing on a Million Lives, Volume 2. As you can see, I'm a little disappointed with this cover. I was hoping they were going to stick with the motif of him on top of the bodies and everything. And if I look right here, you can see that they keep it on the back. And I even have the third volume here, which is sort of a spoiler, I guess, but... and it looks like they keep it going just on the back. For anyone who just doesn't want to hear anything, I have a friend who, he won't even watch the first chapter reviews, which is fine. I understand. It's because it's a volume of manga he wants to read. My thoughts on this is not a great volume. It's not bad. It's just not that good. It has a very, very bad moment, in my opinion, in it. But also, if you want to peep, we have a new... I turned the wrong way. We have a new bookshelf. You can see all my Bleach collection here. This is another book. This is just a normal book series. I have Chainsaw Man's 3, 4, and 5 because 1 and 2 are so hard to find. You have my Rosario Vampire, my Death Note, and a bit of Bakuman. And this is just like a general. These are more of the new stuff that I've bought recently. And then you got Monster Volume 1 and 9, and then a bunch of 1s up there is essentially what that is. And then you got my Rengoku statue and my Hinata statue. So, cool new little backdrop for the videos. But let's get into it. This picks up with our party. You have Yusuke. He's the main character. Iu, the little popular mage girl. Kusu. I don't have her name here. I don't know how to say it. She's like the fighting. She's the girl that's the fighter, but she's never really fought throughout the first volume. Yuka, she is the girl from the last volume that Yusuke saved in the real world. And Cavil, the fighter that they meet in the actual world. So she's actually in that world. She won't be transported out with them, at least as far as I know is where we're at. To play catch up, what we left off on was they had to get from where they were all the way to a city on the far left side of the continent, and before that happened, the 3 main females got captured. Yusuke, with Cavil's help, had to go and save them. So we have a lot of different things that had to be done, and we've just started off on that journey. But Chapter 1 does take a step back, so there's not a lot discussed in Chapter 1 towards the actual goal. Chapter 1 is actually character building for the character Kusue, I think is how you're going to say her name. That's how I'm going to say it. It's focusing on her inner conflict of the fact that in real life she's actually a very sickly girl, and so it's sort of funny that she's a fighter and she doesn't want to be useless to the team. So she sits down with Cavil and starts training with her day after day to become stronger, because she just wants to stop essentially being useless. She wants to be more helpful to the team and provide more support than she has been doing, at least currently in the series. And it leads to her telling them that they need to save a group of people while they're on their journey, because it's just wrong of them to leave them behind when they're struggling against these monsters. And that's pretty much it for the first. You learn a bit more about Kusue, and what struggles she is going through between the real world and the world that they're in. And I will say, for that chapter is good, but I think it's a little deceiving towards what is a big blaring issue, in my opinion, with this manga, or this volume of the manga. But if you're intrigued and you don't want to hear more, look, I will caution you to it. But if you still want to know what happens, past this point, I'll probably start talking more spoilery, get more into my thoughts about what was bothering me in this issue and what I thought they did wrong personally. So, other than that, thanks for stopping by. If you are going to stop here, make sure to watch the other videos and have a good one. But from here, I wanted to talk about the rest of the manga, so I'll go more into it when we get to the part that bothers me. But they meet these people. They're from a kingdom called Diok, I guess is what it's called, which is like a kingdom that has a ruler, and essentially he's very focused on maintaining his power and his leadership, sort of your classic class system where there's all these rich people who rule over all these poor people. But you learn that some of the other people they are transporting are not actually friends of theirs or refugees. They are prisoners from a religion of Arteros, which believes just essentially the strongest people should be the most powerful in their society, and they spread this religion and talk about it, and the kingdom of Diok does not like it because it pretty much the whole point that they're trying to show out is there's a conflict here because the religion conflicts with what the king wants, because maybe the king isn't the strongest person, and the religious of Ateros, the strongest people are the wealthiest and most strong and everything like that. So essentially Diok is the main kingdom on the land mass that they're on, and they learn there's other land masses, and they're trying to execute these religious people to try and convince them to stop coming to their land, because they think if they get there, they essentially pose a threat to that king of that kingdom. And it gets into a little fun thing where Cavil states that, like, she can't do anything, because if she does something, then Diok, who is the strongest kingdom in their land, will just come attack them and take over her lands, which she doesn't want to see happen. And then the reason that Diok, other than just the religion, is scared of Ateros, essentially it encourages people being strong. The people in that religion are actually really strong and pose a threat to Diok. And so what ends up happening, essentially, is Yusuke sits down with the main guy and they start talking, but some of his party members start to argue with him and present why the kingdom of Diok's ideas are wrong, but they're very fervent in their belief of their king and their kingdom. So there is some like tension that's building between the party and these people they've decided to save and travel with, to where we get up to a point where the Diok soldiers are like, hey, we have to go through this cave to get there. It's quicker. It does have traps, but we know how to navigate them. And if we get through this cave, we'll just get there safer and nobody will know what we're doing. Because other kingdoms don't like what Diokers are doing, so they're trying to sneak their way over to the city where most of the immigrants for this religion are coming from. And that's where our big twist happens. The Diok soldiers, after being mad that the main party was like questioning what they thought of and their role and their ideas, decides, hey, we're going to go ahead and trap you in this cave, and you're just going to die because you have no light source. You're going to have to try to get through these traps, which we actually don't know how to get through. It's actually a super dangerous cave, but that was the whole point, is we wanted to trick you into it. And essentially, Yusuke and them have to stop and think through things. They start metagaming a bit, talking about, like, which route, and they start debating, like, well, if our goal is to deliver this package, what's the package? What's considered a package? And it's interesting, because it's fun to, like in the first one, it's fun to see them talk about this as a game, because to them it is a game, you know? Everyone but Cavil doesn't exist in that world, so if they die, they just come back. You know, so they start metagaming it, they start getting through some of the traps, and finally they come up to a room that has a giant pit on the side. Yusuke walks ahead and he gets knocked into a pit. But, unfortunately, Yusuke does not die, and he has no way to die in the pit. And so the three main girls, find and essentially metagame. They map out the puzzle and how to get across, and they get everyone across, leaving Yusuke behind because they have no way to get him back up. And this is where the problem happens, is the writer of this manga tries to use this moment as a character building moment for Yusuke of a struggle he has to do, because essentially as the girls move on with Cavil and they're fighting through the dungeon, getting past all the traps, they eventually end up in a room where they're fighting these giant gargoyle monsters. Yusuke is just trapped in the pit, climbing up. And essentially, instead of writing it how I think would have been better, which is Yusuke's thoughts as he's going through these trials and tribulations of trying to get out of this path, because the only way he can do it is, I think he uses his chef's knife to pick at the wall so that he can make footholds to climb up slowly, and keeps falling and dying and reviving, and he keeps reviving in the pit. I think there's a little bit of lore mix up there, because I know that the party has revived next to each other all the time when they die, so I don't know why he's reviving in the pit the whole time, but it's supposed to be his struggle. That didn't bother me too much. What bothered me is how it's just the writer telling you how he feels and telling you what his struggle is. It literally just reads like you're talking to the writer almost, and that comes across really bad in my opinion. I did not care at this moment about the manga and about the struggles and about the characters. I just didn't care anymore, because I'm like, this is so bad. I'm not interested in reading this. It's not interesting. It's a fun contrast to Monster, which I just finished reading, where I was trying to eat up every page of it, you know, as I read it. This was the opposite. I was like, okay, I'm going to make a video on this. I need to finish it. It definitely made me want to drop the series. And I know I've mentioned I have a third one, so I have some explaining to do at the end of this. But Eventually, he does get out of the hole, and he does start to catch up with the party. He notices that he missed one of his friends dying, so one of Cavill's soldiers dies. It's a friend of theirs now at this point. He can only know this because he gets to see the virtual log, and it starts to bother him. Wreckfest is ready to play. It's a fun game. But anyways, it does flash back to the girls who are further along in the cave, and a big moment happens. Cavill gets stabbed by the gargoyle and thrown off a ledge, so you have nothing to believe but she is dead. And honestly, when Yusuke caught up, I probably would have liked this volume if it had ended there with that thought. It left you on a weight of the fact of, hey, did she die? That's a reason for me to pick it up. But instead, it does go a little bit further. We see that Yusuke saves Cavill because one of his abilities he's gained is to speed up the healing process, and he uses that to stop Cavill from dying from bleeding out from her stab wound. And they essentially build up a plan to ambush the guys from Diok. They split up, two of them to go finish the goal, because obviously they only have to finish the goal. But since they're metagaming, they're like, well, we either need those prisoners or we need to just get something random to that place. So they have Iu and Kusue go ahead, or I think it's Iu and Cavill go ahead with Kusue, and then Yuka and Yusuke, they're not treating, that's right, they're not treating Cavill as a unit at this point, I forgot, because she's been injured, she's not really useful right now, because she still has to heal more, he can't fully heal her. So, Iu and Kusue go on their own to get to the city with Cavill, and then Yusuke and Yuka go to ambush the Kingdom of Diok soldiers that trapped them in there, because since they did get through the trapped cave, they got through it faster than the other people going the other route. And it sort of ends there with them starting their ambush on them. And I have to say, I was not impressed at this point. I told myself that I was probably going to end this video saying I dropped the series as a whole. But then this happened. So I have it right here. All the books I'm going to read for this. I was thinking about it. I was buying other volumes that are up here on my wall to read. And I read the back. And unlike the first volume, which I stated didn't interest me from the back, this one talks about, in the beginning, I guess, somewhere in here, they ask about the world that they're in. And they get an answer, which sounds like it'd be a good plot moment to see if I'm actually interested in this. I know a lot of people have 3-volume rules. I don't have that. If I'm not interested, I just drop it. And maybe I'll pick it up later. But reading the back caught my eye enough that I did pick this 3rd volume up, and it's going to be a bit till I get to it. I have other volumes that I definitely want to read of manga here, but I have it there. It's not too expensive, so overall I can just give it another shot and see what we think at the end of this 3rd volume. I also learned it's only an 11-volume series, so it's not even that big. We're already like 2/10 through, I don't know, 2/11 through. There we go. We've chunked a big chunk of the story through. So I think Volume 3 will be a good setup to see whether or not I like this series or not. Next, we have a Peter Grill coming up, which is a comedy, fun little manga that I've also already picked up the 2nd volume for. I'm excited for it, to talk about it. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to show on screen because it is a little inappropriate at times. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked the new background with the new manga volumes behind me and everything. I love that I have my Bleach collection right here behind me, even though it's behind my head. I have to do the opposite of the camera. But other than that, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. I'm TMG Penty.